The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. It is Friday, June the 29th, and this is the last Friday of June, and really almost the halfway point of 2018. Where does the time go? I even said it a couple weeks ago, but truly, this is the halftime of 2018. And if you're just tuning in for the very first time, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And Health Futures is exactly what it sounds like. It's what is the future of healthcare? And I make the show not because of me, it's because of the guests I bring. And I brought an extraordinary guest here today because he is all about healthcare. He publishes a healthcare industry newsletter. He's also a professional consultant in the healthcare system, if you would. He helps providers and health plans with these what we call reimbursement agreements. Yeah. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the Health Futures show, Jim Hammond. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you here, and
it is halftime of 2018 already.
It's hard to believe.
Time flies.
And you're not a newbie. You've been in the studio before, but never here on the show. And
that is correct. Yeah. There was a previous show called On Air Healthcare that was hosted by a friend of mine named Steve Reese. Uh-huh. And so he hosted that show for a few years in the mid-2010s, and I was a frequent guest.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is really a pleasure to have you here. And today, you had one of your state-of-the-state union-type meetings.
Correct.
You do this twice a year, and I've teed you up in terms of talking about you being a healthcare industry somewhat expert. Talk to us about what the state of the state is and what you guys talk about today.
Well, the state of the state meeting does occur twice a year. We have a meeting every January and every June. And this is our mid-year State of the State meeting. We invite folks from all over the industry to come meet with us. So we have representatives from health plans or insurance companies. We like to call them health plans. And we also had health systems, so big organizations like Banner and Honor Health and Dignity and Phoenix Children's Hospital were there as well. We also have representatives from the pharma industry, from home health, from durable medical equipment industry people, and then we have the ACOs, the Accountable Care Organizations, that are very involved in taking care of Medicare patients. And so those folks were our special session today, where we had 4 ACOs come and talk about what they're doing to change the way healthcare is delivered to Medicare patients.
Wow. And, for our listening audience, ACOs, Accountable Care Organizations, were born out of the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, actually, there were demonstration projects before the ACA passed. So CMS has been looking at these organizations for many years, but they were codified and supported through the ACA. And so a lot of money was thrown at them from CMS, from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So there's a lot of support for these organizations because the thought is that they're going to bend what we call the cost quality curve. That in America, we spend a lot on healthcare, but our quality isn't always commensurate with that cost. So the idea is let's bend that cost quality curve and get more value for what we're buying when we spend those Medicare dollars.
And they have these great terminologies like value-based purchasing.
Right.
But really, it boils down to exactly what you said, Jim. It's about getting the best outcome for the lowest amount of money.
Correct. So a lot of it is about finding the right place of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about this on the show before. Let's find the most efficacious place for these people to be taken care of. Folks don't want to leave their homes and go to hospitals. We joke around. You and I both know this. A hospital is a horrible place to go. If you can avoid it, do not go to the hospital. So if you can get your care at home or in an outpatient setting, then that's a better place for you. And it oftentimes costs less.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, my appeal to the listening audience is if you are suffering from a life-sustaining injury, issue, challenge, whatever you want to call it,
right,
go to a hospital. Otherwise, go to your doctor,
right.
Go to an urgent center, or call your neighbor that might be a doctor to be able to help you.
Sure. Yeah, the emergency room is the most expensive place to get care for a couple of reasons. One, they have staffing issues. They have to keep doctors and nurses on staff all the time. So it's a very expensive place to run. It's also, because of our litigious society, it's also a place where doctors are taught to run those tests. If there's any question, run that test. If there's any question, let's do an imaging study. And so there's a lot of utilization of healthcare that starts in the emergency room that isn't always necessary.
CYA.
Yeah, they're covering their butts. It's not even really that. I don't think a lot of them are ER docs are thinking that when they order that test or that imaging study. I think they've just been taught that. That's how they learned. When you see a patient that has this potential risk, you run that test.
Well, and they want to rule it out, too.
Right.
They want to say, okay, let's do a CT scan so we make sure that there's not inflammation in the brain.
Right. Yep. And through the history of our healthcare system, we've had this third party involved, the insurance company, that's paying the bill. So the doctor and the patient have been kind of having this conversation. Well, do you think we should do this CAT scan? Well, by all means, do the CAT scan. I have insurance.
Right.
And it's paid for, so do it. And so we've kind of disconnected the cost of care with the actual purchasing decision.
You know, we could have a whole show talking about insurance.
Yeah.
It really, really, really could.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the areas of insurance that you really spend a lot of time on and talking to the providers that you either consult with or you publish.
They subscribe to my newsletter, right.
And by the way, I want to, I'm holding it up, and you, our listening audience, can't see this, but it's called the Hertel Report, and you can find information about it at thehertelreport.com, and that is TheHertel report.com.
There you go.
And I'm making the assumption, because I haven't pulled it up on my laptop.
Yeah.
You can hit a subscription button there, right?
There is a subscribe button. Become a member is what we call that button. So, yes, please take a look at that. If you're involved in the healthcare industry as a provider or a health plan or what we call an ancillary player, the Hertel Report will be great for you. We really are committed to bringing impartial, accurate, timely information about our industry to our readers. We don't have any political slant. It's just the facts. This is what happened. This is what folks are doing about it.
Well, it's interesting. I got the May one here, and
yeah.
I know there's a June one, but Amazon and the mega billion-dollar mergers.
Right.
Amazon's taken over the world.
Amazon and Berkshire Hathaway and who's the third one? Walmart or no, Walgreens.
It's Walmart. Walmart, Chase.
Oh, Walmart is with Chase. Yeah.
Right. Walmart, Chase, and Amazon.
And Amazon.
And now Atul Gawande.
Right. They've picked him as their leader, which is a very interesting pick. My take on his pick is he's kind of a directional leader. He's somebody that can set the sights high, that this is what they want to accomplish. He's not really known as a business leader. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact he has on their company and what innovations they come up with to do things differently.
And our listening audience may know that name because he wrote this New York Times bestseller called Being Mortal.
Being Mortal.
And the great thing about Dr. Gawande is he really talked about what palliative care was all about. And how doctors, they go to med school and they're taught to
intervene.
and fix.
Right.
You can't always fix and save, and I think he's on this mission talking about compassion and palliative care and end of life.
End of life care, yeah.
Care.
It's a big topic right now.
And you know what? Not only does it make it easier for families, but it also saves our insurance companies, the federal government, state governments a lot of money.
It could save us tons of money.
Well, we're here down our first segment.
Yeah.
Jim Hammond from the Hertel Report here in the studio, Money Radio. Stick around. We got the second segment coming right up.
Join certified financial planner Nancy Fleming this and every Wednesday afternoon as she joins me for Financial Review. Nancy and I discuss an array of topics from Social Security, taxes, to what types of obstacles you can and will face in retirement. So join Nancy every Wednesday afternoon at 4:35 for the Financial Review. Want more, Nancy? Be sure to tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for My Smart Retirement, right here on Money Radio.
If you're struggling to pay or haven't been making your student loan payments, listen carefully to this urgent alert. Have you been out of school for 10 or more years and you're still making your student loan payments? Are your student loans past due or even in default? Can't go back to school because of an old student loan problem? We can help you if you qualify. Your student loans can be taken out of default. We can stop the wage garnishments, stop the collection calls, and stop the seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and see if we can help you reduce your student loan payments. One quick 10-minute call could solve them right now. So call the Student Loan Helpline now. 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832, 877-801-8832. This is a fee-based document preparation service to help you access free government programs. Call for complete details, not available in all states.
The following update is for drivers who pay too much for car insurance due to DUIs, DWIs, tickets, or anything else. Our company specializes in low-cost SR22 auto insurance. We know that mistakes happen and offer free quotes for very affordable auto insurance meant specifically for you, the overpaying high-risk driver. The quote is free, and we'll handle the filing so you can start saving money. Call 800-749-2984, 800-749-2984, 800-749-2984.
Don't miss the best fireworks show in town next Wednesday, July 4th at Chase Field. D-backs Cardinals starts at 7, followed by the Fireworks Spectacular. Secure seats now at dbacks.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're in our second segment, and I've got Jim Hammond from the Hertel Report here in the studio. This is a healthcare industry newsletter. He's also a consultant helping providers and health plans with their reimbursement agreements. And when we left off at the first segment, we were talking about end of life. And I really want to give a quick shout out to Wes, our engineer, because that tune by Steppenwolf, that was a request of Jim Hammond. So
that's a classic. Get your motor running.
Get your motor running. And you know what? Talking about motors running, Medicare. Yeah. That motor is running, and it is running so fast. And for me, and you and I were talking at the break, we're about the same age. We're closing in less than 10 years.
Closing in on it, right.
And, one, we're hoping that it's around. And two, I want to just give a shout-out to the listening audience. If you or a loved one is going to turn 65 this year, enrollment happens. It begins in October, and it ends, I believe, December 7th.
Right.
So you should be paying attention to Medicare.
Right.
So, Jim, you're my Medicare expert. Talk to me. What is Medicare, and what is it all about?
Well, Medicare, everybody thinks Medicare is one thing, and it's not. It's not one thing at all. There are many, many different kinds of Medicare. Medicare is a very flexible program, so our seniors can make decisions about what kind of Medicare plan they want. Traditional Medicare is really a good old-fashioned PPO type plan or an indemnity plan. People might know that term, where you pay a premium, the insurance company pays 80% of the cost, and you pay 20%. That's pretty much how regular old Medicare works. But that's not really how our healthcare industry works. And so our healthcare industry has adopted what we call Medicare Advantage, which is really using the healthcare industry, the insurance companies, as the delivery mechanism for Medicare. So our federal government has said, look, insurance companies, you know how to do this. You do it better than we do. Why don't you take it from here? So when someone signs up for a Medicare Advantage plan, they essentially assign their benefits to the local insurance company, and then the insurance company becomes their partner in managing their health. And those insurance companies are better at it than the federal government is.
And when we look at Medicare Advantage plans, we're talking about United, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and
Humana.
They're all in it.
They're all in this business, yes.
They're all in this business, and the statistic I've heard is about 1/3 of the Medicare population presently has this Advantage plan, and I think they're saying in the next 3 to 5 years about 75 to 80%.
Some of the prognostications go pretty high. Right now in Arizona, we're at 40%, which is a little high, higher than average, like you said. The average is about 1/3, 33%.
It's because we're an older population here,
well,
too.
And also we've had an earlier adoption of these programs. Medicare Advantage was adopted by plans back before we called it Medicare Advantage. It was called Medicare Plus Choice for a while. And so the insurance companies in Arizona were very familiar with prepaid public health, because we have a Medicaid system here in Arizona, the Access Program, which does that very thing. It takes public health benefits that are provided by the federal government and our state and transfers the responsibility of delivering those benefits to these insurance companies. And so Arizona has been doing this since the early 80s, managing these complex relationships and enlisting insurance companies to become the deliverers of that care.
And we call those, because I'm a supplier of a home and community-based services, we call them MCOs, Managed Care Organizations.
Yes.
And our state uses them, but there's still a lot of states that don't.
Yeah, it's been
adopted.
But
more and more are adopting.
More and more are adopting. Arizona was a leader in this movement of using what we call prepaid health plans as the delivery mechanism for Medicaid and Medicare. So those Medicare Advantage plans, they now are given the benefit money. Your premium gets paid to them. And then they now need to compete with each other to attract members. And how do they do that? They do that by delivering more benefits. So your Medicare benefits, you're never going to get less than the standard Medicare benefits. But these Medicare Advantage plans will add additional benefits that make them more attractive to seniors.
So I've had on the show multiple times OptumCare Arizona.
Sure.
And, the one thing that I like about one of the benefits they have, and this is not a paid advertisement for OptumCare Arizona, but I love these community centers that they have.
Sure.
They got 3 of them here throughout the valley, and if you're a Medicare Advantage member, even if you're a member of the community, you can go in and participate in some of the activities that they're doing, as well as they have a workout facility, which is pretty.
There's fitness options, and then what we were talking about on the break is this isolation issue. Is that these are also social places where people can go and interact with other people, other seniors, and that improves their health.
Are the other health plans doing that?
Not as much. They're using fitness as one of the calling cards. You can get a fitness plan along with your
Silver Sneakers
type plan. That's one of the brand names.
Right.
But yeah, those types of plans. We do have some CareMore invested in some centers and community centers, but I don't think the others have joined in and created these senior centers like Optum has.
All right, so we're sitting here talking about registering for Medicare if you're 65. God, I had to tell you, it is so confusing, Jim. I mean, you got Part A, you got Part A and B, you got it without supplements, you got Part D, the pharmacy piece. Can you, we're going to come up on a break soon, but can you give us like an executive summary on really what all that is?
Well, the first thing you need to do is kind of take stock in your own situation. You need to know your needs first. If you have a chronic disease, then you need to think about that when you make your choice. If you have a doctor that you are very, very loyal to that needs to be your doctor when you go to Medicare, That's a very important thing to remember.
Right.
So take stock of your own situation. What kind of needs do you have now? What kind of physician alignment do you need? And then start to talk to a broker. The brokers are very highly regulated. They're not allowed to just sell for one company and one company only and push that company down your throat. They're required to really help the consumer make the best decision for them. And sometimes that best decision is traditional Medicare and not to buy a Medicare Advantage plan.
Nice. And I like how you want to refer to a third party. You want to refer to someone that's reputable.
Right.
Maybe, even talk to your friends or family members that may already be purchasing Medicare.
Sure.
So that you at least have a purview as to what this is going to look
What's available. We had a slide this morning that showed that there are 160 different permutations that you can come up with as an Arizona senior to choose a Medicare plan. 160 different options, yeah. Between the different Medicare Advantage plan options that you have or versus keeping traditional Medicare and adding a supplement. There are 63 different supplements available to seniors in Arizona.
All right, so I want to conclude this segment talking about Part D.
Okay.
I mean, pharmacy is a big component for aging. Everyone's taking medications. And some of these, we talk about pharmaceutical companies
right.
and health plans and their costs. Some of these are ungodly how much they cost. And there's a thing called the donut hole. I mean,
right.
Can you make a little sense of that?
Well, Part D is part of the equation. When you take stock of your own needs, if you are on medications, you need to be aware of them. You need to write those down because the health plans will have resources for you to look and see. Is that a covered benefit? Is that if you're on an expensive brand name drug,
anticoagulant, you name it, psychotropic, whatever it is,
anything. If you're very concerned about that drug being available to you, then you need to take stock of that. And that's part of the information that you should gather about your own situation and take to one of these reputable brokers. And what drugs are you on? What doctors are you seeing? Do you have chronic diseases or not? What if you might be 65 and playing golf 6 times a week? Then maybe you could do fine on a Medicare Advantage plan and it doesn't cost you much at all. So there's options for people.
I'd love that to be me.
Yeah, yeah. Let it be you.
10 years from now, maybe you and I can
be
out there
playing golf, and we'll show each other our Medicare cards.
There you go. And by the way, if those that are on Medicare, they're issuing new Medicare cards now.
That's true.
And you should have gotten yours by now. If not, it should be on the way. And they did away with your Social Security number for HIPAA reasons and privacy protection. So, just make sure you're on the lookout for that.
Be on the lookout.
So just to wrap it up here, almost halftime.
Right.
Medicare for All.
Medicare for All, it gets a lot of bad press. There is no one Medicare. Like I said, in Arizona, there are 163 different choices. If you're low income, you can be on what we call a dual plan. That's both Medicare and Medicaid on one single plan. You got that option at low income. And then high income members, they can buy a really nice supplement that pays for everything. So you pay your premium and then you don't pay any more. So and everything in between is offered as either a traditional Medicare plus a supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. So there's tons of options for people. In fact, my criticism would be there's probably too many options and people get confused and paralyzed
and that's why
making their decisions.
And that's why you recommend talking to a professional.
To a broker. Take stock of your own situation and then go talk to somebody you can trust.
It's hard to believe it, Jim. We're at halftime. Halftime here at Health Futures, taking stock in you. I've got Jim Hammond, the publisher and CEO of the Hertel Report. Please stick around for the second half. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
The suspect in the murders of 5 newspaper journalists in Annapolis, Maryland, once lost his federal job for cause. Here's Brian Todd.
The suspect, Jared Ramos, was terminated from his job at the Bureau of Labor Statistics back in 2014 for security-related concerns.
Correspondent Karen Kaifa says Ramos may have had a grudge against the Gazette newspaper.
He filed a defamation suit against the Gazette in 2012 for an article that covered stalking charges Ramos faced at the time. The paper's former editor said he isn't surprised by Ramos's actions.
Authorities today said they believe Ramos had a plan and went so far as to barricade the back door to keep people from escaping. President today said our hearts are filled with grief. celebrating the 6-month anniversary of the GOP tax cuts at the White House.
New jobs, bigger paychecks, and keeping more of your hard-earned money where it belongs.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up 200 points, S&P up 16. I'm Mike Moss.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens. And they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
If you're still working, you're still making money. But what about retirement? Make sure you have reliable income then, too. Keep listening to your Money Radio experts to find out how.
Join certified financial planner Nancy Fleming this and every Wednesday afternoon as she joins me for Financial Review. Nancy and I discuss an array of topics from Social Security, taxes, to what types of obstacles you can and will face in retirement. So join Nancy every Wednesday afternoon at 4:35 for the Financial Review. Want more, Nancy? Be sure to tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for My Smart Retirement, right here on Money Radio.
Want to fly somewhere? Looking for cheap flights or cheap tickets? Then call. That's right. Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. Low-cost airlines has all kinds of cheap travel deals. Fly domestically and save up to 75%. You can even fly internationally and save even more. Yes, fly anywhere in the world and save a lot of money on your plane tickets. We'll even save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. So don't book your tickets until you call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels. Call right now for prices so low they can't be published. Travel experts are here 24/7 to help. 800-611-7394. 800-611-7394. 800-611-7394. That's 800-611-7394.
Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-268-4205. 800-268-4205.
Don't miss the best fireworks show in town next Wednesday, July 4th at Chase Field. D-backs Cardinal starts at 7, followed by the Fireworks Spectacular. Secure seats now at dbacks.com.
I'm Bruce Bale with Your Money Now. Wells Fargo and Company said it would raise its dividend by 10% and buy back more than $24 billion worth of its shares after it passed the Federal Reserve's latest stress tests. Wells Fargo shares are up 4.5% today. Shares of Constellation Brands are down more than 4.5%. The distributor of Corona Beer and Robert Mondavi Wine reported a first-quarter adjusted profit that fell short of Wall Street estimates. Those sales came in just ahead of expectations. Beer sales rose during the quarter, while wine and spirit sales fell slightly. The broader market is higher as financial shares are rallying today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 181 points. The Nasdaq Composite is ahead 37 points. The S&P 500 is up 16. Crude futures gained 70 cents, ending the week at $74.15 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
Dad, what are you doing?
Cramming for college.
I'm the one going to college.
Yeah, but we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it all.
Discover Student Loans.
Discover does student loans?
Yeah, they're one of the top student loan lenders in the country. It takes 15 minutes or less to apply, and there are no fees for the life of the loan. Best of all, I can earn cash rewards if I get good grades.
Really?
Yeah. We still have time to apply and get a great rate.
So I can just chill. College kids still say that, right?
No one says that, Dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Visit discoverstudentloans.com to apply today. Limitations apply.
Stocks are soaring, and construction spending across America has been on the rise. If you've been waiting to build, the time is now. Whether you want to expand your business or you want to build a new garage, call General Steel today. Our metal buildings are custom designed for your needs. For example, a 40 by 60 is a great space for an auto shop or 3-car garage. And if you call General Steel today, it's on sale now for under $25,000. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-957-8335.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second half. And if you're just tuning in, I have Jim Hammond here in the studio, and Jim is the publisher and CEO for the HomeCare Report.
Right.
He's also he operates a company called Professional Healthcare Solutions, and they're a consulting firm that helps providers and health plans with their reimbursement agreements. And in the first half, we talked a lot about health plans. We talked about Medicare.
Right.
We also talked about some of the news that broke out, and he had it in the HomeCare Report. I always say hurdle, but it's HomeCare.
Yeah, the emphasis is on tell.
HomeCare Report, and that was, I talked about the mega billion-dollar mergers, Berkshire Hathaway, J.P. Morgan, and Amazon, and we talked about Dr. Atul Gawande being partnered with them, and just a lot of fluidity happening in healthcare. A
lot of change.
And, healthcare represents 1/3 of our economy, so it is important for us to change.
Yeah, we're flirting with 20% of the gross domestic product being on healthcare. So it's a little less than 1/3, but there are other industries that are connected to healthcare. So it is probably closer to 1/3 when you really count everything. The transportation industry that is connected, and the pharmacy. And
and then how about all the naturopath, supplements that everyone takes.
Supplements, right. There's a lot of money being spent on healthcare.
There is. And, I want to take this opportunity for our listening audience to learn a little bit about you, Jim. And the beginnings of the HomeCare Report, how did that come to be? Because you weren't the founder, but you used to work with the founder. Talk to me a little bit about your background. I know you're an Indiana boy.
Yeah.
So just give our listening audience just a little brief bio on you.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Indiana. I did get my education in Indiana at Indiana University in Bloomington. I have a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. So I've been in the public health sphere since high school and college. So I've been involved in the healthcare industry in my entire career. Moved to Arizona in 1985 and started working for Mercy Care Plan, which is an access plan.
Yeah,
I was the first provider relations rep for Mercy Care Plan.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's how far back I go. And I'm an expert.
It was Schaller Anderson then, right?
No, this was before Schaller Anderson was the management company.
Wow.
Right in the very beginning, it was all managed by Catholic Healthcare. The Southwest Catholic Healthcare Network is what it was called. But anyway, I've been in the industry my whole entire career, and I'm an expert in those relationships between health plans and providers. And so I worked for Mayo Clinic for many years, for 10 years. And this guy, Jim Hammond, published a newsletter called the Arizona Managed Care Newsletter. And he called on me as somebody from Mayo, and I was an open person, and I talked to him about what was going on. And so I became one of his sources. He came to town a couple times a year and interviewed me about what was going on in the industry, who was doing what with whom, where were people moving around. And so I was one of his sources. And he published this newsletter and hosted these meetings called the State of the State meetings. And I was a frequent attender of these meetings. And then suddenly in 2010, right after he gave the State of the State meeting in June of 2010, he unfortunately passed away suddenly of an aortic aneurysm. So he died very suddenly, very quickly. And his widow and some of his business partner friends came to Arizona and said, hey, look, you've been one of his sources do you think that this newsletter organization has legs? Do we need it? Does Arizona want this to continue? And by and large, the response was yes, that this was an important newsletter and source of data and information that people were counting on. So I volunteered to help. I said, I'll help. How can I help? And so they asked me to help by presenting these meetings. That was
Were you still with Mayo at the time?
No, I was independent.
Independent, okay.
In fact, what Jim did was when I went independent, when I left Mayo, he called me right away and he said, look, let me give you will you come work with me at the State of the State meeting and help me do registration? I'll give you a free membership to my newsletter until you get your next gig. And then you can buy one with, through your next company. So I did. I helped him with the registration. I remained independent, and my company, Professional Healthcare Solutions. And so I joined as a member that way. And then I just became a friend of the firm and eventually started doing the meetings, hosting the State of the State meetings a couple times a year. And then Nice. It grew into taking over the whole Arizona operation. So I took over in 2014.
And, I mean, this State of the State, this is not a small group. How many people do you have there today?
I would guess we had 190 people in the room this morning.
So 200 people, round it. I round up. So
round up.
200 people.
We had 200 registered. We had 10 no-shows.
Exactly. There you go. So you had 200 people representing various facets of healthcare.
Oh, all of it, yeah. Pharma, home health, durable medical equipment.
You mentioned ACOs,
hospitals, health plans. So Humana was there, Blue Cross was there. A big, wide smattering of folks, mostly in leadership positions. These are folks that are on the leading edge of what's changing in healthcare, and so they come to the Hertel Report to hear all of that. And we had a special panel of these accountable care organizations and their leaders talking about what they're doing and how they're making changes to healthcare.
And it's really interesting. I mean, when you sit down and you think about it, this is something that Jim Hertel created, and it could have easily died.
Correct.
And you came to the rescue, and I mean, it is a valuable resource to our community to get C-suite people to attend these things.
Sure.
Not only to attend, but to participate.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal. We call it a meeting. We want it to be a meeting. We want it to be a meeting of the minds and an exchange of data and thoughts. And so it's a meeting. We have really great people. People from Access were there. The Department of Insurance was there. So we really have the regulators and the health plans and the providers all in the same room talking about our common goal, which nowadays the vernacular is value-based care.
Value-based care.
Right. Let's get the best value we can. Value is defined as cost over quality over time. So if you can get things to cost less or be higher value, then you've improved value.
And hopefully you've improved outcome. And that's what ultimately
quality is all about.
Yeah, that's what we're looking to do.
Right.
And, I think that's a great segue. Do you guys at all talk about the future and what that's going to look like? Obviously, you're talking about where we are now. And healthcare, and I had it said to me once, actually, Peter Fine said this from Banner.
From Banner, right.
He said healthcare is like a car running down the freeway at 65 miles an hour. And he said if your right front tire does blow, you don't have time to pull over.
Right.
Because if you pull over, then you are, as a provider, going to be irrelevant. You got to figure out how to change that tire as you're still riding.
That's hard.
And it's so true. I mean, this isn't your grandfather or father's health plan anymore.
No, absolutely not. Another analogy people use is that you're on a dock that's connected to the fee-for-service world, and you're getting on a boat that's leaving to the value-based world. And people are trying to keep a foot on the dock while the boat's leaving. You can't. You have to get on the boat and go and make the changes to the future.
And I'm glad you brought up the fee-for-service versus value-based purchasing. And I've had this conversation actually a couple times this week with some of the providers that you mentioned, ACOs and hospitals. So how do you do value-based purchasing with Medicaid? So that Medicare and most of these health plans, with older adults, there is a distinction that needs to be understood for you to receive this benefit, and that is you have to be homebound, you have to have a doctor's order, and usually you're getting better. And when you look at home care, and that's what we do at Cypress HomeCare Solutions, we are a home care provider. We're in our 25th year. But we also do Medicaid work. And when you talk about value-based purchasing, my clients don't typically come from an acute or post-acute setting. My clients come from a adult child who's worried about their parent. It comes from a estate planning attorney, wealth manager, geriatric care person.
That these people need help.
Doctors, yeah. So we come in and we come in really in the pre-acute stage. So, we're
That's
there.
ideal, right?
Yeah, we're there. So, they're noticing some deficits. They might need some help. But, the question is, and I ask this, especially on the Medicaid side, because Medicaid has not embraced value-based yet. And it's like, especially on the home and community-based service work, how do you do that? How do you measure value when these people are living out their lives in the least costly setting and the most desired setting?
Sure, the home is the most desired.
So I know I'm putting you kind of on the spot. How do you do that?
Well, what they are measuring, they are actually measuring things. They're measuring how many people go back to the hospital. So if they were in an acute setting and then they come out, how many of them go back? That's a key.
And in my census, that may represent 3 or 4% of my entire my population right now. They weren't there.
Well, they might be a small portion, but remember, the hospital is the most expensive place to get care. So even if it's only 3%, those are expensive 3%.
Oh, it is.
So that's one thing. Readmissions, patient satisfaction, member satisfaction is a big part of it. That's being measured. And then also the new one of the other new catchphrases is provider satisfaction, right? Because there's what we call the triple aim of healthcare, which is we're going to improve quality, we're going to improve the care for the actual patient. It's going to cost less. And then kind of the fourth one is, and everyone, including the doctors, are going to be happy about it. And that's tough to do.
They call that now the quadruple.
The quadruple aim, yes.
The quadruple aim.
Right.
It's kind of like the Rodney Dangerfield. What was it called? The Lindy.
The Lindy. The triple Lindy.
The triple Lindy. There you go. Now it's the quadruple Lindy, right?
Yeah, it's the quadruple Lindy.
If anyone's not seen this, it's what, old school?
Old school.
Yeah. Listen, back to school. It's back to school. Old school's another one. Stick around. We're down our third segment. We got the fourth one coming right up.
Great.
Gunderson's nationwide Best Stocks radio show is now on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., professional money manager Bill Gunderson will talk about the economy, markets, and the best stocks now. Bill Gunderson is also the inventor of the Best Stocks Now app and the writer of the weekly Best Stocks Now newsletter. If you like to invest in the markets, this is the show for you. You will not want to miss one episode. Visit GundersonCapital.com for more info. That's GundersonCapital.com.
The following update is for drivers who pay too much for car insurance due to DUIs, DWIs, tickets, or anything else. By now, you know all too well that SR22 auto insurance is way more than you'd ever want to pay. You probably thought you didn't have a choice, but you were wrong. Our company specializes in low-cost, very affordable SR22 auto insurance for high-risk drivers. We know that mistakes happen, so take pride in being able to offer absolutely free quotes for this very affordable auto insurance meant specifically for you, the overpaying high-risk driver. We're standing by at 800-749-2984. The only thing you need to do is stop waiting around while your monthly payments stay as high as they are. Our knowledgeable representatives are ready for your call at 800-749-2984. The quote is free, and we'll even handle the filings so you could start saving money every month even sooner. Call 800-749-2984. That's 800-749-2984. Once more, 800-749-2984.
This is David Kogan with Eliances, ELIANCES.com. Unlock the secrets to Richard Branson, founder who we interviewed, Big Lots CEO, president of Telemundo, founder of North Pace, Chuck E. Cheese founder, and hundreds more. Every Monday at noon and Saturday at 7 a.m. on Money Radio. Go to Eliances.com, ELIANCES.com to unlock the secrets of some of the most successful people in the world. Eliances.com.
Get a free box spring or up to $600 off a BeautyRest Smart Motion Base and a free smart bed bundle. Visit Sleep System in Phoenix or BeautyRestRetailers.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are on our fourth segment. Thank you, Wes, for Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones. I think I want to make that our
standard.
Our standard for our last segment. Because you know what? We're going into the weekend, right?
Weekend, yeah.
Yeah, start me up. Let's go. So if you're just tuning in, I've got Jim Hammond here in the studio. He is from the Hertel Report. He owns and he publishes that. He's the CEO, but he also operates a consulting company called the Professional Healthcare Solutions. And if you missed the first three segments, go up to my website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. It's up there on the top. The third button down is radio shows. You'll find this show, and you'll find over 200 others that we've been bringing to you for the last 5 years.
Good for you, Bob.
So, Jim, I want to close with this, and that is the future.
The future.
What does the future look like? And, you know, I sit here and talk about this on the show. You haven't heard me say this, so I'm going to say it for you.
Tell me.
And our listening audience that hasn't heard this before. And I read this from, it was a position paper that was put together when the presidential election was happening in 2016. And it's written by a Dr. Ken Dykewell. He wrote the book called The Age Wave. And that position paper had a positioning statement that said the following. It said, 2/3 of our planet's population that has ever lived to the age of 65, and yes, we're talking about Earth. Ever lived to the age of 65 are alive right now.
Right now, yeah.
And, we know the numbers. 10,000 a day, 3.6 million a year are turning 65.
Aging into Medicare.
We are aging at such a rapid rate. The 65 and older population is going to more than triple over the next 30 years. 85 and older is going to grow as well. It's going to more than double. And at 2056, we're going to have more people 65 and older than 18 and younger, and that's never happened
Never
before.
happened. Yeah, actually, our graduating class in high school was like the peak. So, and we're less than 10 years away from that peak.
Right.
So the rate of growth is actually going to go up before it starts to go back down. And we're looking at a lot of Medicare people.
A lot of Medicare people, a lot of health care needs. And, I talk about it here, too, on the show. We're going to have to embrace innovation in tech.
I think tech is a big part of it.
That has to be. But it doesn't replace people because people make it happen.
Yeah, care. I was joking today with these accountable care organizations. Well, the middle name of that organization is CARE.
Right.
It's still about care. Being accountable is very important, I think, in our society. I think accountable is a word that is getting some attention and should. But care is the key word here, is that we're still going to have to take care of these older people, regardless of tech and regardless of financing. We still have to have hands-on care.
We do. And I'm in the care business, and anyone that's in the care business will tell you there's a shortage of people.
Sure.
And,
and they're not paid very well.
They're not paid very well. And listen, I'm all about the movement with the teachers, hashtag, Red for Ed.
Sure.
But what about hashtag, Red for caregivers?
Red for
what
home
about
health aid.
Yeah. What about hashtag Red for the detention officers? What about There's so many that are underpaid. And for me, I want this message to go out to our listening audience. I don't think we do a good enough job talking about the care profession and how rewarding it is to help your fellow brother and sister out. And, we sit here and we watch, and we talked about, what just happened in terms of Amazon and, Chase, J.P. Morgan and Berkshire Hathaway coming together with Dr. Atul Gawande. Those are great things that are happening, but, Amazon has forced a lot of these big boxes to close, and we're talking about Toys R Us, we're talking about Sears, we're talking about Kmart, we're talking about,
Best Buy.
They're all disappearing, and in the next 10 years, it's going to look very different. And my appeal to the listening audience is, you know what, that same workforce could easily be our workforce.
Right.
And you know what? It's a much more rewarding experience to sit there and help a fellow brother and sister. And in my business, HomeCare, it's not about wiping butts and doing that type of stuff. It's a lot about companionship.
Sure.
It's about, helping them get dressed, helping them with their activities for daily living, which could be meals. Right. It could be driving to appointments. There's so much that we can still do with the population we have, but right now we have a shortage, and I think we need to do a better job of educating. This is a good profession to be in.
It is a good profession. It does not get paid enough, like a lot that you mentioned, like a lot of those others. But it is very important. It is rewarding. I think it's part of the future, too, because we do know, and all the people in the room today at the State of the State meeting this morning, all these folks were talking about getting care at the right place, where the patients are.
Right.
Meet them where they are, not where they're at, but where they are.
And
right?
and that's important because in my little company, more than half now have memory care challenges. And that point about meeting them where they are, not where they're at, is you really, as a care professional, you need to meet them where they're at or where they are, because they are dealing with dementia, and they may think it's 1959, and you can't be there telling them, no, it's 2018. You got to meet them where they are. You got to be in their world.
Right, and being in their home. The home is the most expensive place, but it's also the cheapest place to take care of people. It's like, oh, wait, we have to send a doctor there? We have to send a doctor to somebody's house? That's very expensive. When you think of it that way, doctors make how much a year? And so when you knock that down to an hour, when a doctor has to drive in his car, drive to a patient's home and take care of them and drive back, it turns out to be a very expensive thing, right? It's a few $100s, but that's a lot cheaper than an ER visit. It's a lot cheaper than an admission.
For sure.
So let's get those doctors and nurses to people's homes where they belong and keep them out of the hospital.
And that's why in that presentation I did last week, my title was A World Where Home is the Center of Care. I really believe that that's our future.
Yeah, for too long it's been the hospital. The hospital has been the center of the healthcare universe. And that's really about money. Hospitals are big, huge money machines, and they are important parts of our economy. They're important. In Arizona, healthcare is an important part of our economy, but overall, in the long run, we are paying all those bills. As citizens of this country, we are paying all those bills, and there is a better way to do it.
So we got probably about 10 or 20 seconds. Any lasting remarks you want to leave our listening audience here as a tune-out of Health Futures?
Take stock in your own situation. That's the first thing, is especially if you're looking at open enrollment and Medicare coming up, what are your needs? Figure those out and go find an expert to help you.
We'll be back next week. Jim Hammond, thank you for being on the show.
No place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Financial words of wisdom with Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
There should be a little sign like there's on the side of cigarette packets. Picking tops and bottoms can be hazardous to your wealth. Don't try to do it.
It's helpful financial food for thought on your drive home with a host who tells it like it is. Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Catch Market Wrap on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM Monday through Friday at 5 p.m.
Money Radio 1510
and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa, Phoenix, and K287BX Mesa. You're listening to the Valley's only source for full-time financial news and money talk on the radio, Money Radio. Let's take a look at the market. Everything's green. Dow up 61 points at 24,277. S&P up 2 points at 2719, and NASDAQ up 13 at 7517.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news.